Hi guys, welcome back to another video. After approximately 10 days, I'm uploading the next video. For a few days, I'll be continuing with the histopathology series, and then we'll start with the malignant hematology. Some of the topics of malignant hematology and histopathology will overlap because of like lymph node and lymphomas, etc. Bone marrow biopsies, etc. will overlap, and from now on, the approach would be more towards the way I'll discuss is like an approach to the hematological problem. Benign lesions of the WBCs and infections, I will take a small class any day because immunodeficiency diseases is important, and I am going to take it up. But I would like to start with malignant hematology since that is the only benign chapter left, and I'll take some time to prepare that because I would like to add onto the topic by taking topics from recent advances and recent lectures, recent treatment changes that have occurred in that field. So I will take some time in creating the presentation for immunodeficiency diseases and degranulation diseases and involving the WBCs, etc. So that is just one chapter left from the benign hematology. After that, we had to start malignant, so we will do it. Histopath will go as per as I make. I'm going to share with you, and in these say till January, we are going to do more of histopath, and then from Feb again, histopath and malignant hemat. In Feb, I will be taking immunodeficiencies with you. So moving ahead, I have taken breast histopathology, benign and malignant. I have mentioned recent advances. You know what books to read. If you don't, please contact me on Messenger. I'll guide you. Keep postgraduate exams mein histopath mein what books you have to read. Moving ahead now is lymph nodes. I'll start with the part one of this approach to lymph node biopsies, benign. I'll be just taking and dealing with the approach to the diagnosis. How will you make a histopathological diagnosis of a benign lesion and show you some pictures of some benign lesions, not all of them. Then go back, read your book. If you don't understand anything, you can message me. Okay. So again, how would a lymph node present as? A lymph node will present as a swelling or a mass in the neck, in the inguinal region, in the axillary region. In these are palpable areas, okay? Or it can be in non-palpable areas like the abdomen, the mediastinum. I have seen cases, especially in pediatric population, where you will not get any of a very small lymph node or no lymph. I won't say no lymph node, but yes, a very insignificant lymph node in the periphery. But in when you go for a radiological examination like a CT or ultrasound, you see multiple paraortic, mediastinal, around the celiac artery. You see a lot of abdominal and thoracic lymph nodes, and that is a very very important thing because normally we think acha lymphoma hai so it has to be peripheral also. No, yeah, leukemia hai so peripheral commonly, yes, but recently we had a case where the case is of probably a NS HL, nodulus sclerosis Hodgkin's lymphoma syncytial variant. This is a differential. Second DD is ALCL. I'll tell you why, because it was a very small peripheral lymph node, nothing much. It was needled and no material came out, and everyone was like, fine, it could be reactive. But when the marrow came, the marrow was done because they still clinically suspected that it could be a lymphoma because there was some, pancytopenia kind of changes in the PS. The patient had been referred from another center. The marrow showed some ALCL like atypical or atypical RS like cells, mononuclear RS like cells. So that appeared to be involved by lymphoma, and now the lymph node biopsy came and it is giving a picture of something like a Hodgkin's lymphoma with nodular sclerosis type syncytial variant. Of course, IHC needs to be done and it needs to be confirmed that it is definitely a lymphoma. Now, the variant needs to be confirmed on IHC and the results are awaited. So, when I say that the lymph nodes are there, it is important. So clinically, not only palpable, but radiologically, you'll have to study for what lymph nodes are there in the mediastinum and in the abdomen. Whether there's a past history of a lymphoproliferative disease, any history of multiple transfusions in the recent past is there, or organomegaly. It might, I have seen a case of Burkitt's lymphoma with periauricular swelling and just liver. And people were not able, they were, it was first thought of as in a separate center. They couldn't make a diagnosis of malignancy. When the child came to us, the clinicians were thinking, they were working up, there's effusion, there's they were thinking of this periorbital swelling to be like an edema. The child was emaciated, he was 15 years old, there was a liver. They were making multiple differentials, and then we thought, why not? And a very small lymph node, very very tiny. We made the differential of the by looking at the child and looking at the CBC. We may The CBC had pancytopenia, but not to a great extent. Like everything was borderline. So we thought, why not a hematological malignancy? So by looking at the child, we thought of why not a NHL, or it was a very different spectrum, a myeloid sarcoma. We did an FNAC couldn't do an FNAC of the swelling over here, and the lymph node yielded nothing but blood. So luckily we got the bone marrow. The bone marrow showed some atypical lymphocytes with cytoplasmic vacuolation. Each of them had cytoplasmic vacuolation. And when the biopsy came, it was completely fibrosed, despite the cytopenia being borderline. And there were those kind of cells which, when we put the IHC highlighted it to be a high grade B cell lesion. It was CD20 positive, CD3 negative, and 45 positive. And we did an LMP1, which was, I think it was negative. We did a 15 and a 30. It came out to be negative, and that was all the panel we had. We did not have, we have asked for a Ki67. We did not have it. Then it was sent outside. Then a lymph node. No, there was no lymph node sent, and whatever sample we had, it was sent outside. Finally, we got a diagnosis of Burkitt's lymphoma. So yeah, so that is why clinical is important. Not every time will a case of lymphoma, leukemia have very prominent lymph nodes. Sometimes they might just present with lymphocytosis. If it is leukemia, we had a case which just had lymphocytosis. So these are variations which you should be aware of. And then of course, whether the lymph nodes are matted, single, solid, firm, necrotic, inflammatory, any organomegaly is there, any skin involvement points to T, NHLs, high-grade DLBCLs, all the high-grade lymphomas. Now WHO has a separate category of high-grade lymphomas. Double hit, double negative, single negative. You should know all these terms. Double negative, triple negative lymphomas. Double hit, MYC mutation is there. With MYC, what MYC other are there? These words you should be aware of. So we'll deal with that when we come to malignant lymph nodes. Today we are only dealing with benign. Radiology is the first investigation you need to get done. I always prefer that before an FNAC, radiology is done. Why? Reason is, when you put a needle in any organ, it creates a needle tract injury, and that injury, hemorrhage, fibrosis, then fault interferes with the radiological interpretation of anything. So I prefer a ultrasound or an X-ray to be done first, especially an ultrasound, before I put a needle in the lesion. Then hematology, basic and advanced. Basic is nothing, the routine investigations. Advanced are the flow, the fish, the molecular. We'll be dealing with it in greater detail in malignancies. Biochemical, that is LFT, KFT, LDH, and viral markers, and then of course histopath and cytopath. So the benign spectrum of lymph node lesions will fall upon these four categories. That is, it is a reactive. A reactive can be due to any mild infection or a vaccine that was put and you get adenitis. That is reactive. Viral infections, they also come under infective. So basically, and reactive is a broader umbrella category. that every change due to infective, autoimmune HIV, or necrotic infection or lesion is actually a reactive change. So in the category of reactive, you can maybe imagine see a young child जिसको vaccination हुआ, and then a lymph node appeared. Commonly, you get that in very young neonates who have BCG adenitis. Now, this BCG adenitis is due to BCG vaccine, and when you do FNAC and there'll be a lot of necrotic, no well-formed granulomas, and a lot of AFBs will be seen. But the morphology of this AFB is very different from what an actual infection of AFB looks like. AFB stain of an actual TB has beaded kind of appearance of the bacilli. You know, if it's a rod like this, it will be beaded. So you can see कि junction है in one long thread. But the ones of the vaccine are short and stout like this. You can't imagine they appear more like a fragment of a big TB bacilli, and I think you all must have seen what a TB bacilli looks like. So that is one of the cases. And in reactive, the microscopy you get is follicular hyperplasia and sinus histiocytosis. I'll show you abhi. Infective can be a TB, chronic infection. Fungal again will show you granuloma. Parasites can be seen. A filaria worm can be seen. Cat scratch, again a lot of necrosis, and HLH. HLH is actually a neoplastic hematological malignancy, which we'll be discussing when we discuss hematology. Autoimmune HIV में Castleman disease. Now Castleman disease, a single variant of it, has been categorized into malignancies, into lymphomas by the WHO. HIV and dermatopathic lymphadenopathy, necrotic, something like Kikuchi's, even TB, all this is necrotic. So sample of a lymph node in saline can be sent to microbiology for if culture is needed for TB or etc. For pathology requires a formalin specimen. For molecular studies, a fresh tissue, snap freeze it, and then send it for electron microscopy. Glutaraldehyde is there. Frozen sections can be done. Grossly, when you bisect the lymph node, if this is a lymph node, bisect it like this, not like this, because if you do it this way, then you'll just get this surface, ye cut surface hoga, which is a small area. But if you do it this way, this correct way, you'll get a large surface. So if it is a focal lymphoma, a focal lesion, a focal TB, a focal anything, that you have more chances of catching it. So basically you don't need to make this arrow. Okay, necrot and so this is in general about the kind of benign lesions and how you process them. So in a lymph node, actually, so what you have is a capsule over here. Okay, this is the thickened capsule over here. Let me just, this thing is a thickened capsule, and this is some fat in the periadnexal perilymphatic area. This is the hilum with hilar vessels, some fat. This is normal in an old lymph node. In the inguinal lymph node, you get these fatty areas. It is normal. Then you see this area, all this is sinusoidal dilatation. Okay, in the, but this is again normal. You get a cortical area and a medullary area, and all this is paracortex. In the paracortex, you get mostly the T cells and the plasma, the T cells, the macrophages, the dendritic cells. While in this is the follicles, some of them will be pale with a mantle zone. Some will be just like this over here. You might not be able to make out, like, see this. This is just one single uniform color. So this is a primary follicle. This has a mantle zone and a pale center, and here's some sort of a polarization, darker area, lighter area, then a mantle zone. This is a secondary follicle. This area is mostly T, dendritic, macrophages, etc. And this area is mostly B. B, plasma cells, etc. are there. Plasma cells are present here also in the medullary area. This all is medullary area. So in a normal lymph node, you'll get a capsule which can be partial or complete, thick, and mostly not thickened. And then you get a normal differentiation of a cortical area, a medullary area, a hilum area. Fat is normal. Sinusoids might be dilated. You might get HEVs, which are known as high endothelial venules. These are small vessels which supply the not only the lymph node, but this HEV is responsible for the activation of naive, B cells, which are or T cells, which T cells go into the thymus, which is again a lymphoid organ, and B cells. So the vessels over here, they bring these naive cells into the lymph node, and then those naive cells get exposed to the antigen. Then an entire immune reaction takes place, and then those naive cells become activated cells, and they can either become B. Mostly T is in the, excuse me, mostly T is in the thymus, and then I'll take that someday, and because it is more of MBBS, and then after that activation, there are memory cells if it is B, and there are helper cells, killer cells. It's a long immunity chapter. I can take it up if someone, I mean PG should know it, so I can take it up if you don't know it. So these HEVs are then those venules in which these cells come and get exposed to antigens and get activated. Okay. So I have told you about the benign features that you will get on histopathology. So this is a follicular hyperplasia. You see variable size of follicles with a distinct mantle zone over here, and some sort of polarization. You see there's a dark area and then a light area. It's, you know, this is good. A darker area at one end, and then this is a lighter area, and then there's a mantle zone, and this is a primary follicle over here, and then there are some congested sinusoids. So this is normal, and even this is normal. This is a follicular hyperplasia with large and small follicles. So all this is normal. There's some retraction over here, but otherwise it's okay. In follicular lymphomas, this hyperplasia is uniform, same size, not big and small, big and small. More on it when we deal with malignancies. Then I would like to show you, I showed you HIV as an example of reactive. Mostly the reactive lymphodes are like this. In HIV, you get these irregular kind of follicles also. So you might confuse it with something known as PTGC, post uh, progressive transformation of germinal center. This is some sort of a pre-malignant condition which might develop into a lymphoma. But the difference is in PTGC, there's a single large follicle with almost others are normal, or they might be a couple more which are serpentine. Okay, this is smaller, so either mostly it's a single large follicle, or sometimes serpentine large follicles. Here, most of them are, see, this kind of huge, large. Mostly you get this only. Here, mantle zone is preserved. Okay, even in this, a mantle zone is preserved, and there's a polarization also. In follicular lymphomas, there's loss of polarization. In benign lesions, there is polarization. In AIDS, in these two stages, there is polarization with large follicles like PTGC and some follicular lysis. This is cell from the paracortical area, lymphocytes spilling inside the follicle. And we catch all this by using markers also. B markers will come over here. T markers will come over here. So if T markers are coming over here, means they have spilled into the germinal center. The last stage may, here you see there are no mantle zones. So you are going to think, oh my god, this is a lymphoma. No, it is not, because there are a lot of tingable body macrophages. And tingable body macrophages are mostly then benign lesions. So when you see this, go back and ask the clinician that whether the patient has any history of Castleman or HIV, etc. like that. Okay. And in PTGC also, but this is not tingable body. This is just a variation in the color of the germinal centers. And with that, these are dendritic cells, and these small blue dark ones are lymphocytes. Here, this is a tingable body macrophage, means large macrophage with a lot of debris and a nucleus. There's no debris over here in the cytoplasm of these cells. Okay. See, this is sinus histiocytosis. The sinuses are expanded by histiocytes, and these are normal cells. And this is a low power view of a sinus histiocytosis, which is another reactive change. So mostly what you get is necrosis. And see, now these are granulomas. So this is a granuloma of a TB with a central necrosis and a large granuloma over here, and giant cells, Langerhans type of giant. This is a sarcoid with multiple compact granulomas, a maintained or this is not called a mantle zone, actually it's called cuffing of lymphocytes around the granuloma. But these are closely packed, and this is separate. One is over here loosely, then one is over here, and you might get asteroid and Schaumann bodies and other findings that you get in sarcoid. This is a cat scratch disease. How you catch it? Hensley, Bartonella Hensley is the organism responsible. And here you see a star-shaped necrosis, something like this. This is a little more star-shaped, which is different from a vague necrosis and no compact granulomas. It is in the center, caused by Bartonella Hensley and a thickened capsule in a benign lesion. So this chart is from my book, Manual of Hematology, which I've published this year only by Ahuja Publication. It is just 188 rupees, available on the website of Ahuja Publications. And this is actually a comparative. This and more is given in that book. I can't take everything from that book. I've just highlighted a few things. If you are interested in hematology and you really want to understand benign and malignant hematology, you can buy that book, read it. That is completely WHO and recent advances made easy for you, for postgraduates to understand and learn how it is done. So thickened capsule can be there in chronic diseases and lymphomas. Sometimes in a normal lymph node with just reactive morphology, if it is a tangential cut, it might appear thickened, and the troubleshoot is to resection it in a thinner section, that is less than 3 microns. uh, Extracapsular spill versus a metastatic lymphoma, always check for a capsule around that small lymphoid follicle. Lymphomas, if there's an extracapsular spill of lymphoid cells, rarely it occurs in benign lesions. Mostly it is in lymphomas. However, if you think it is benign, then supposing it's a lymph node over here and you get some lymphocyte collection over here, look whether it has a capsule or not. If it has, then it is another benign lymph node. If it does not, then it is probably a spill from a lymphoma. Okay. Then subcapsular sinus is the most common site of metastasis. You might miss a small cluster, so go for a serial section. Then the trabeculum may be sclerotic and thickened just like the capsule in lymphomas and in benign. Again, it can be a tangential section. Go for resection at thinner section. Follicular follicles are secondary, hyperplasia then both reactive and lymphomas. Mixed appearances mostly in reactive. Again, then go for looking for the mantle zone. It is compressed in lymphomas, normal in a reactive condition. Then go for IHC, look for dendritic cells. If the dendritic 21 and 23 are dendritic markers, if the framework is maintained, no collapse of the reticulin framework or IHC framework is there, it is benign. Then marginal zone expansion can be seen in viral lesions, syphilis, etc. Again, IHC is there because mantle and marginal zone lymphomas also appear expanded. And then Castleman disease, etc. have this lollipopping, that is this, there's a vessel in the center, and then this is how the lymphoid cells are placed with a thickened hyalinized vessel in the center, with the vessel going like this, so it looks like a lollipop. This can be there in reactive as well as Castleman disease. So the ways, again, IHC do I, so more like this is given in my book. I can't take up everything because I'm bound by the time. So this is my book. If you are interested, please go and buy from the Ahuja book website. You just type this on Google and you'll be, shown the website. So thank you. And these are my references. And next time we'll be dealing with malignant lymphadenopathy.